get ready for our meeting, please silence all of your mobile devices.
Hey, Raylan's got a new hairdo. I like it.
And for,
Hold that for mayor and council recognition.
okay.
That would be a good one.
So for everyone on the dais, if you would, please not move your mics. They're in a position to where they can pick up your voice clearly. So if you would not move the mics, but make sure that they're on when you're speaking. Are we ready? All right. At this time, the mayor will call to order the regular city council meeting for 6 p.m. Tuesday, August the 1st, 2023, City Council Chambers, 201 East Nash Street, Terrell, Texas. We have with us District 2, Grady Simpson, District 3, Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem. Absent but excused is District 4, Stephanie Holmes Thomas, Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. And also with us is District 5, Phil Robinson. So at this time, if you would, please remain standing for the pledge of the flags. And we have with us Richard Rolliston. Pastor Rolliston will lead us in our invocation.
May we bow, please? Our God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the precious gift of life. We don't take life for granted, and so we thank you for just life on this side and the privilege that is ours with that life. We come praying, Lord, for these who have dedicated themselves and who dedicate themselves, Lord, to this city, praying for wisdom for them as, Lord, this mayor, council members, as they push forward with management and vision, Lord, for this city. We pray for this meeting. We pray for a workable, Lord, spirit, a spirit of cooperation. And we pray that in the end, that all that is done will simply be done to please you. It is in Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, Pastor, before you leave, I've got something for you.
I may want to stay.
It gets a little boring, so I won't hold it against you.
Goodness gracious.
Sneak out, but come forward. So Pastor Rolliston has been a part of this community for some time. And we certainly appreciate all you've done in the past, and we look forward to future service with your church and with our community. And I want you to know how much the Christian community and faith-based means to this mayor and to this council. So thank you for all your hard work. As you know, we are celebrating our sesquicentennial this year, 150 years strong. And on behalf of the mayor and the council, we would like to give you one of our coins that commemorates the city of Terrell. And thank you so much for being with us this evening. Good to see you. Thank you. Can we get a photo? And we need one more. Pastor Rolliston's district.
We're on the borderline, but I do not mind coming down with Grady. And as I come down, I also want to say a big congratulations to Pastor Rollerson, Reverend Rollerson, because he today, I believe you said sixth.
My youngest daughter, she gave birth to her 5th child today.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. Congratulations.
She and her husband.
Ah,
And I need for you to pray for us, my wife and I, because he represents our 7th grandchild, and the other 6 over our house as we speak. So pray for us, please.
Lots of prayers, that's right. Let's go, come on. Ready? Good? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Sit in just a minute.
Okay, sure. So I had asked for no one to touch their mics, and the first one to touch their mic was, guess who? May Ronnie. We had them perfectly positioned
breaker.
so that we could catch everybody's
Make my own rules.
sounds correctly, so voices correctly. Anyway, next on the agenda is mayor and council community recognition and events. Does anybody have anything they would like to, or an event they would like to recognize? Hearing none, we'll move on to hear remarks from visitors. Do we have any? Nothing there. Our next item on the agenda is adoption of the minutes. Discuss and consider the minutes from the regular city council meeting on July the 25th of 2023. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from the July 25th, 2023 meeting with an amendment with the change to indicate that I was not present at the last meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Phil Robinson with District 5 to approve the minutes of the regular city council with an amended portion stating that Mayor Ronnie was not at our meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is boards and commissions. This is going to be handled by Dawn Style. Discuss planning and zoning commission appointments and reappointments.
Mayor and council, in your packet is the Planning and Zoning Commission roster. Clint Huey's his first term will be up in August. And there's an email in here, and he does wish to be reappointed. And Joe Hood, his term will be up in August, and this is his third term, so he is not eligible for reappointment. He does need to be replaced. And this will come back next week as an action item. And this is under Mayor Ronnie Velazquez.
Okay, Mayor Ronnie, next week, you'll have a recommendation for the council to consider?
I will have at least one recommendation, and we'll review the applicants for Joe Hood in the meantime.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Next
Mayor,
on.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Mayor, I'm also going to note that Mr. Hood mentioned to me today that he was hoping that the elected officials here would keep him in mind in case there is another board you might like him to serve on. So he made that request verbally, and I just wanted to pass that on since you all look for board members from time to time.
He's an excellent board member, too. Had been around him, and he does an excellent job.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Next on the agenda is 7.2, discuss ordinance number 3001, an ordinance of the city of Terrell, Texas, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Section 2-4, Library Advisory Board, Terrell City Code revised, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. This will be handled by our IT Director and Librarian, Rebecca Anderson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. This is simply an update. We, in 2019, we changed the number of seats on the Library Advisory Board from 9 to 7. And at that time, we did not change or update the number of members required for a quorum. And so we're simply reducing that number from 5 to 4.
Oh, it's a housekeeping issue.
That's correct.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Becca? Thank you, Becca. Next on the agenda is 8.1, discuss and consider strategic plan. This will be handled by our city manager, Mr. Sims.
So, Mayor and Council, we are really wrapping this up, and we're very close. As of Monday morning, I had, the last missing element was to, number one, get any remaining council input on the department-by-department listings of what we need to get done over the next 3 years. And I think I've got some of that in, and any more is welcome if anybody wants to send anything else in. But the specific thing was that our strategic plan always lists priorities by individual council people. And on Monday morning, I had 3 of the 5 from our elected officials. I had a great meeting on Monday with Councilman Phil Robeson, and got his list, so that was good. He and I were joking, by the way, that the meetings are not boring. Some of us really enjoy talking about public policy, and we had a good chat, right? And talked about public policy a lot, and so we think it's pretty exciting. So anyhow, now I've got 4 of the 5, and just in deference to the final council member who needs to get theirs in, I'll just ask you guys to not take action on this tonight. We'll bring it back on next week's agenda to finalize it.
So do we need to table, not table, but,
Take no action.
no
Just take
action?
no action.
All right, there'll be no action on item 8.1. Our next item on the agenda is 8.2, discuss and consider FY '22 audit. Again, Mr. Sims.
I'm going to introduce our auditor, and so if John Manning from Patilla Brown and Hill will come forward. John's been one of the leaders of the audit team for the city for quite some time, and I've got a whole bunch of these exciting reports in my office. I was actually looking at one of them this weekend.
They look better than they used to.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're fine piece of paper and everything. So anyhow, I'll hand it over to him to let him give you the report. Typically, what we do with our audit, just as clarification, it's listed as discuss and consider, because what you're doing is you're accepting your auditor's report. So you want to have an action on record, and we send that action on record as the date that you accepted your audit. That's important for some of the state and federal agencies that we provide. And yeah, we do have a little, we'll correct that little clerical error there. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mayor and Council. You should have 2 reports with you. I'm going to start with the actual bound financial statement report. If you'll look at page 1, I'm not going to go over every page, but the first few are pretty important. This is our independent auditor's report, and this is why we were here. Although we do help with the financial statements, the responsibility of the financial statements and all the disclosures in this report are the responsibility of the city of Terrell. Our responsibility is to express an opinion as to whether those are correct under generally accepted accounting principles. And that's what we've done here. They've actually done some good things here by actually putting our opinion as the first paragraph in this report. And it's an unmodified opinion, meaning we did not have to modify our opinion for things that the city is omitting, like not keeping up with capital assets or not having books where you can determine what's going on. So of the 4 types of opinions that we can give, the unmodified is the best that we can offer. If you were not keeping track of things like capital assets or missing components, we would modify our opinion, and you did not have that. So as Mr. Sims mentioned earlier, these reports do go to grantors. I believe y'all are having a rating call this week. They will look at this, and the unmodified opinion is a very big deal to those people, because if they're going to lend you money or a grantor's going to give you money, they want to have an idea that that money's going to be spent appropriately and it has a good chance to be reported properly, and that's what this report is saying. So although predominantly we work with the finance department on this, these unmodified opinions are an entity-wide report, because council and management set policy, and if people don't follow it, they don't work. So the fact that you guys have set policy and people follow it are one of the reasons why you have an unmodified opinion. So it is a citywide effort. If you'll look at page 4, we start the management's discussion and analysis, and this kind of tried to take a lot of the numbers and put it into perspective where people that aren't auditors can look at this and not have to look through lots and lots and lots of numbers. So if you look at page 6, this is really the only place anymore where we have comparative financial statements. And you can see that, as Mr. Sims mentioned earlier, if you looked at these reports 10 years ago, the numbers look a lot different. The continued growth and steady economic activity that's going on in Terrell continues to lead to the financials looking like this. You're now in your governmental funds, which is everything except water, sewer, and airport. You are now up to over 120 million of total assets, as opposed to $75 million of liabilities. And the good thing is your net position there is positive at 46 million. So essentially what that means is if you got rid of all of your assets and paid all of your bills, what's left? You have a positive number there, which is very good. And it's bigger than it used to be. Last year it was almost 40.6 million. This year it's up to almost 47 million. So, you know, if you laid that out on a graph and looked at it, it's continuing to plod up a little sharper in the last few years with everything that's been going on. So that's really nice to have. Look on page 7. Again, this year you were able to add about 6.2 million to net position. And I mean, if you look at the two rows there, 22 and 21 under governmental activities, you can see the continued growth of sales tax up almost $1 million over last year. Property tax collections were up about 600,000. Continued use of grants. EDC sold some land. So there's all kinds of inflows there that are some comparable to last year, but some that are not. But when they're not comparable in a positive way, meaning there was more collected than last year. The one thing that I'd like to point out too is that you, in both water, sewer, and governmental, you were able to add money to net position, which essentially means you brought in more than you spent, which is a good thing to do. If you look at page 8 and 9, you can now see kind of a summary of the capital assets that the city has. And those numbers in your governmental funds, which is streets, equipment, all that type of things, those are about over 44 million. And then your water sewer, they're over $71 million worth of assets there. So again, a lot of work goes into keeping track of those and making sure that those are being computed properly and depreciated within regulations. But if you look at page 14, this is really what people are used to looking at. It's your balance sheet for your general fund, and then you have 5 other funds that meet the criteria to be listed individually, and those are all listed, and everything else is kind of compiled into that other governmental funds. And you can see here that this is everything but not water, sewer, and airport, and those topped out at about almost $74 million of assets. The good thing here is that when you look at that large number, 47 or almost 48 million is cash and investments, tax pool, things like that. So we're able to go out and actually send third-party confirmations to those people. So it's not just the city saying, hey, we have this much money. We get in touch with these other entities and they confirm that those monies are there. So really, you know, you're looking at over half of your money. We have 100% confirmation that those numbers are correct. Also, with your due from other governments, that 11.2, that number will continue to go down. It's still big. That is the pass-through toll money that as that money starts coming in year by year, that receivable will go down and we'll convert that stuff to revenue. So that's just one of those things that just takes a long time to start and collect. But really, nothing on this balance sheet is indicating anything that's trending in the wrong direction or something that we would see as a red flag. Cash reserves look good. You have been issuing a lot of debt, but some of that is in relation to grants, and you're turning those projects in. You have to have those projects in order to get the businesses to come in and do these things. So, again, everything here looks exactly the way it should be. Your liabilities here are only about less than 12 million. So one thing that's a lot different this year is you do have some unearned revenue that is your ARPA money that has yet to be spent. You have the cash. We just have to put it in a liability until you spend it. So each time you spend those dollars, it comes out of liabilities and turns into revenue. So we were able to confirm those numbers as well, which was a big deal. If you look at page 17 and 18, you know, again, this year the general fund cracked $6 million of fund balance. You know, several years ago, that number was a lot smaller. So that number continues to grow. You're pretty much in the sweet spot with where GFOA recommends that your reserves be. They usually want at least 3.5 months at a minimum, and you guys are there. So there is some reserve there. You know, we never think things like COVID or natural disasters are going to happen, but they do. And the fact that you guys do have some reserve there helps a lot. And you can see the PPPF, public partnership, That's almost at $6 million of fund balance. The EDC has $8 million of fund balance, so there's a lot of good financial stability that people can see in these financial statements. And the other thing that's always pointed out here, it's not as big anymore as it used to be or as part of the audit, but the rent supplement, Section 8, your housing program is still a large program that is run very well. There's a lot of red tape that goes into those grants, and the people that are in charge of those did a great job. If you'll look, not too much longer, if you'll look over on page 22, this is your water, sewer, and airport. And this year was a unique year in that y'all didn't do any refundings or any new debt. I think that's gonna change for upcoming with the projects that you guys have been doing. So all we did this year was make sure that the proper payments were made on those debts, and they all were. But again, here, if you look at water, sewer, almost $41 million of net position. Airport at about $17 million worth of fund balance. So again, a lot of financial stability, and again, nothing here that's pointing red flags to anything trending in the wrong direction. One thing that changed this year is if you'll go towards the middle to the RSI section, if you'll look at page 55 and 56, I know if y'all are like me, you've heard horror stories about pension plans, and a lot of those are in states where they're not run the same way as Texas, but you guys obviously use TMRS. And if you look here on that far right column, 2021, we're always a year behind because we're always measured as of December 31st of the previous year. So that liability went from about 6.6 million down to 3.8 because of the assets that TMRS has that are allocated to the city of Terrell performed very well. You'll probably see that number flip around with the stock market, how it did in 22. But again, the one thing that I really want to point out here is that no matter where it's been, the lowest funded percent, which is the third line from the bottom, this year you're 95% funded. Some of those that you hear about that are up north are like 5% funded because the plans are too aggressive and they can't make enough money to sustain the plan. People are living longer, medical costs are higher, so there's a lot of things that go into that. But even at your worst year, y'all been 81% funded, and anything over 85, rating agencies essentially consider it fully funded. So I just wanted to point that out. This is something that's been about 8 years that we've had to, it's always been in the financial statements, but we've had to start recording it as part of the actual city's numbers. And again, this is a big number, but just remember, it's what we call an actuarial accrued liability, meaning it's an estimate of what you owe. This is not anything like a bond. When you sign it, you actually have to pay that back. This is just an estimate of what's owed. So it is recorded, but this isn't something where TMRS is going to say, hey, write us a check for $6 million. The only way this ever impacts your financials is when they give you the rate at the beginning of the year saying your rate to match for TMRS is 13.4, whatever the number is. So a big number, but just kind of wanted to go over that. But really, good job on the audit. Took us a little bit longer this year. You know, we've had a lot of turnover in the finance area and just some continuity with working with new people. But Shelley's been a huge help and tried to get us everything she could as fast as she could, just trying to find some of the stuff that she's not familiar with. So we appreciate all the effort, Mr. Sims and his office, that everybody gave us. And if you guys have any questions, that's what I'm here for. But all in all, a very good audit, although probably a little bit later than we wanted it, but we're working through that.
Well, I'm pleased to hear that we were given the best unmodified opinion from your organization to the city. As the council and the mayor are out talking to community members, would it be safe to say that the city's in a good financial position?
Yeah, I think that's very safe. I think, I don't know, you're probably going to get a very good report from your rating agency.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think saying that you're in good financial position is a safe and accurate statement.
And that wouldn't be coming from a bias from the mayor or for the council, because we're trying to say that. It's actual, I mean, it's documented that would be the case, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
And this will be on the website.
Yeah, so the city's been accountable for its financial dealings throughout the last year, couple of years, and we've improved in our position
Yes, sir.
financially, in your opinion.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Does anybody have any questions of the finance?
Just one question to make sure I understood the pension, the way that we're tracking our pension. You said 95% is what we have covered
Yes,
at this time for all the pensions that are in place,
yes.
the pension budget.
Yeah, for your TMRS pension plan, yes.
pension.
95% funded,
Okay.
yes.
One more. So you said that it's recommended that the city has 3.5 months reserve. We currently have that.
Yes, sir.
We need to keep that, right? Is there any benefit to be 4 months or increase into 5 or for reserve?
There gets to a point where it just becomes like, we just have money sitting here and we're not putting it back into the community.
Right,
Y'all aren't
Okay.
there.
okay.
But, you know, that's 3.5 is the minimum. That's what they're like, this is what you need to have, like you have to have this. And,
That's on
you
the
know,
low
5,
side.
6,
Okay.
that's not a bad place to be. And you have to remember, Mayor, too, and users of the financials, this is a snapshot of one day.
Right,
And what people don't really understand is that, you know, property taxes, they all come in January pretty much, and then the rest of the year, all of your expenses stay like this, but some of your revenues go down. And it's just capturing that number. This number at another time of the year, maybe, you know, maybe less than a month, who knows? But it does, this is just a one-day
yes.
number.
Okay, good. Anybody else?
I think just getting some, with all of the projects going on and the, you know, continue to adding PIDs and these different organizations, is getting a stable finance group in, which I know y'all are trying to do. It's just not been easy. But, I mean, that's really the thing that took the longest, was there's just not people there necessarily being able to do everything super timely. So once you get that staff in and they have some familiarity, to us, that's probably the biggest thing that could be improved on.
So when you look at these numbers, you said a lot of different things. So when you look at these numbers, what makes you nervous? What would make you nervous?
I'm not nervous. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, so there's always the unknown, but I'm not looking at this going, oh man, your pension numbers look terrible, or wow, you don't have a lot of cash, or, you know, the kind of debt that you have makes me kind of queasy. Y'all don't have any of those things. And, you know, I don't have a crystal ball and can't see everything that's going to happen, but if you've been tracking, you know, everything that we can look at as far as financial stability from the numbers, your sales tax, you're good, your property taxes look good, your water rates, all those type of things. There's not anything that's just pointing, glaring, going, oh man, this is really making me nervous. I wouldn't call it, I mean, it can always be higher, but I wouldn't call it a weak link. I mean, it's just a matter of what y'all feel. And the thing with fund balance is, we have some places that won't issue debt. So when they want to do a big project, they save up for several years, get their fund balance to where it looks really big, and then they make a one-time purchase and make it go away. So it's kind of whatever the council's philosophy is and how you approach spending and budgeting, that number is different all over. I mean, you can go through and just start pulling up city after city, and you'll see huge fund balances, and you'll see some that are almost zero. I do know that several years ago, y'all's was on the dangerous end of a little bit lower than it needs to be. But, you know, y'all are making, and the thing with fund balance is, what we found is it goes away in a year and takes a lot of years to get it back. So, but nothing that looks like a glaring weakness or anything that, when I look at this going, hey guys, let's look at this, I really don't have anything right now. Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned that our current debt position, we're kind of in a good place. We're considering some additional borrowing currently. Is there sort of, looking at it as it stands now, is there sort of a ceiling at which you would say, we're going too far with the borrowing? What's the sort of roundabout amount where you would say that's too much borrowing currently, or?
Again, that's just relative to what you're planning on doing with the things that are coming into the, all the things that you guys are getting, the new growth, the businesses. You kind of have to go out and get that debt to put those services in so these people will come. So there is a calculation by state code that it's like 2 or 3% of your assessed values. It's a huge, it's a number that's very big. Y'all aren't anywhere near that. But there's not really any set, some states have rules where they say you can't have debt over a certain amount of whatever the measuring stick is, but here we don't.
But certainly if I said we're gonna borrow $500 million, you'd say, oh, yeah, but if I,
Oh,
but then if I said we're borrowing, say, 20 million, would that, what amount would make you go, oh, that's too high?
And it kind of, again, it just depends, because the one thing that I do like about how y'all are doing this is you didn't just go out and get $80 million and then just go start borrowing and paying interest and just letting the money sit there as these, you're kind of doing them as the projects come about. So you're saving on interest and you're doing it more timely, like, hey, this project is due, we need these funds now, this is what they're for. And so I think, to me, as someone, as a person that lives in Terrell or where I live in Waco, I look at what they're planning on doing with that debt. And if that makes sense and is in, in line with what the city's been doing, but I don't think the numbers that y'all are doing are egregious. Y'all just had a long period of not doing any debt. So when you do new debt, it always looks bigger, just because you haven't done any in, up until these Water Development Board bonds that, anything substantial. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but there is not a target. Like, I haven't looked at this and go, okay, guys, pump the brakes. Because your sales tax continues to go up, your property tax collections look good, your water collections look good. So the things that help pay those back, that's what we're concerned with. And we're not seeing any trends of that number or those numbers being in a dangerous spot.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Very good report. Thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you,
I'm
guys.
just also going to add my thanks. There's a whole team on both sides. So Shelley Wallace, our finance director, is back there in the audience. She does a great job for us. Thank you to Shelley. And then I can't list everybody on your side of the team, but we often see Clayton. I'm on the phone with Clayton from time to time. So thank you to everybody at your team.
Cameron,
Yeah,
Cody, yeah, there.
appreciate it.
Do a good job.
Yeah, it's a multi-person effort. So thank you very much.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Appreciate it.
You bet. So we need a motion to accept the fiscal year 22 audit. Is there a motion?
Motion to accept the fiscal year 2022 audit.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Phil Robinson, District 5, a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to accept the fiscal year 22 audit as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 8.3, discuss and consider Paddock Board recommendation, agreement for downtown building preservation assessment. This is going to be handled by our downtown project manager, Raylan Smith.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Bringing this item back to you, we discussed it last week. Back in June, I came to you with a list of capital items that the Paddock was considering for fiscal year 23 funding, as well as looking forward to the future for fiscal year 24. This is one of those projects. This is the building preservation assessment. This will give us some detailed information about all of our buildings within our downtown core between Rockwall and Virginia, and allow us to have good conversations with property owners, and also look at the bricks and mortar, and have a good narrative for our downtown whenever we start applying for additional funding for some of the building renovations.
Okay.
We originally had this budgeted at approximately $75,000. The contract came back at $63,922.
Is this a not to exceed number
Yes, sir.
with Mark A. Thacker? Thacker? Yes. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Smith? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 8.3?
Motion to approve the contract with Mark A. Thacker, AIA, for downtown building preservation assessment in the amount not to exceed $63,922.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Phil Robinson, District 5, to approve the contract with Thacker AIA in an amount not to exceed $63,922,000. Is any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 8.4, discuss and consider Paddock Board recommendation park capital improvement projects for FY 2023. Again, this is going to be our downtown project manager, Raylan Smith.
So, same song, different verse. These are a list of projects and items that the Paddock would like to go ahead and expend their funds for fiscal year '23. These were projects that Glenn presented to the Paddock Board earlier in July, and these are the not-to-exceed amounts that Paddock recommends for each of these items within Breezy Hill Park, Kings Creek Park, and also Arley White Park.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Raylan on these items?
Raylan, did anyone on the Paddock have any concerns regarding some of the costs related here? Was that discussed at all, or was everyone pretty much in agreement about the costs?
No, the costs were good. Obviously, the departments and those that represent on this side, we put together quotes and we get our budgets and we get all of our quotes and present them to Paddock. So they did ask to see quotes in July, so they were able to look at those and pick the numbers. So we had good hard numbers to choose from.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, is there a motion on 8.4? Again, is this a not-to-exceed number of $68,304?
Yes, sir.
A motion to approve the presented park project expenditures in amount not to exceed $68,304, with flexibility to order picnic tables that allow for wheelchairs to be inserted. Forgive my language here, but
Handicap accessible.
yeah, handicap accessible for wheelchairs.
I will get that note over to Glenn.
Is there a motion? Is there a second? I have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Grady Simpson to approve the Paddock Board recommendation of capital improvements for FY 2023 an amount not to exceed $68,304, with caveat of having the picnic tables handicap accessible.
Yes, sir.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 8.5, discuss and consider Paddock Board recommendations, agreement for professional services, Moore Avenue landscape improvements. Again, this is our downtown project manager, Raylan Smith.
So this is just the first step in what Paddock is wanting to do for fiscal year '24, which is a major landscape improvement project along the downtown core. This item that I'm bringing to you tonight will be for the fiscal year '23, and it will be just for the design services. And I also want to just mention that Paddock is recommending that Kimley Horn work on the design services for the landscape, just to make sure that this continues to work in alignment with the Complete Streets, Highway 80, as well as Spur 226. So we want to make sure that anything that's done within this project automatically rolls into any of the future projects we have planned.
This one's a $55,000 not to exceed
Yes, sir.
with Kimley Horn. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Smith? Hearing none, is there a motion on item 8?
I have a couple questions.
You have a question? Okay.
So it appears, looking at the concepts here, that the light poles that are proposed will replace our existing light poles, is that correct?
Yes.
And have the existing poles, I guess, progressed beyond their lifespan? They can't be rehabbed for a cheaper cost, or?
They could be, but it's almost at the exact cost of what it would be to buy new. And the paddock chose to go ahead and look at several different new options, just simply because of all of the different road construction that'll be going on. This will allow us to start getting some continuity in any lighting that we do in the future.
Okay. Also noticed that the electrical and plumbing design are outside the scope of our agreement here. Who will do the electrical work and the plumbing for the irrigation system?
That will all be bid as one contract. So Kimley Horn will actually design our construction documents for us, and we'll bid it through Kimley Horn.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right. Is there a motion on item 8.5?
Motion to approve item 8.5 regarding the downtown landscaping.
Motion, is there a second? We have a motion from Phil Robinson, District 5, a second from Grady Simpson, District 2, to approve an amount not to exceed $55,000 with a contract to Kimley Horn for the downtown paddock board recommendation agreement for professional services. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 8.6, discuss and consider resolution number 2085, adopting policies in connection with the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program. This is Chris Knapp.
Mayor, City Council, City Manager, bring to you an item that we discussed last week. This is in reference to the grant that we have coming to the concerning projects of the north, the Poetry line and a water line on State Highway 34 out there by the truck stop. As a result of this, going through this grant, we have to accept some policies that we will adhere by. If you'll turn to page 69, you'll see the 5 policies that they stated: Citizens Protection Plan and Grievance Procedure, Excessive Force Policy, Fair Housing Policy, Section 504 Policy, and Grievance Procedures and Code of Conduct Policy. So I come before you to ask for approval on this as we can adhere to this project of getting this grant.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I gotta say, this is the first ordinance, I think, presented in Spanish. Did y'all guys notice that? It's in English and Spanish. Have we had one before? Yeah? Oh, okay. I just didn't go down far enough, I guess. Okay, cool. Does anybody have any questions for our city engineer? Hearing none, is there a motion on resolution 2085?
Yes, Mayor, a motion to approve resolution number 2085.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Mayor Ronnie Velasquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, to approve resolution 2085 as presented. Is there any further discussion?
I do have a
Okay.
question. Sorry, Chris, I had you sit down, and now I have a question. The first policy, the Citizen Participation Plan and Grievances Procedure, will that policy add any additional tasks aside from what we're already doing in kind of that yearly listening and planning session that we already host?
No, I do not anticipate that at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Again, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I actually had a wrap-up comment related to that I wanted to pass on to everybody here. So remember our conversation at the discussion time when we had this item in front of us was how these policy adoptions really help us be competitive for funding. And I wanted to wrap up and just mention this from our last conversation. You recall that we adopted a series of 11 or 12, maybe 14 different transportation development credit policies from the Regional Transportation Council. And we said, hey, that's great, rah, 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 that's going to get us $5 million in federal funds that we can put on a project in Terrell, not the best grant in the world because they basically sort of tell you what they want to fund, but that's okay. It's $5 million that doesn't have to come from taxpayers of the city of Terrell. So I also got the information today about which other cities, out of the 200 cities in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, only 14 cities were able to adopt that set of policies and get those in place in a timely manner. So Terrell is on a list with Arlington, Dallas, Farmers Branch, Fort Worth, Frisco, Garland, Irving, Louisville, McKinney, Mesquite, North Richland Hills, Plano, Richardson, and Terrell. Those are the only cities that qualified for those transportation development credits, and that's the policy work that you guys as a board put in, because you're doing your policy work and you're having these long meetings and you're adopting all these policies, and then we're managing them as staff to actually pull them off. That's $5 million in funds. And so the same thing happened tonight. Chris is bringing forward a group of policies for you to adopt. The grant agency likes us. That helps us be competitive, and that reduces the tax burden to citizens in Terrell. So I just had to throw that in because I don't do a great job bragging all the time, but I thought that was worth passing on to everybody. So thank you, council.
And adding to that, Mike, none of these policies are things that we're not already doing anyway. I mean, we're just basically codifying them for these purposes.
Right. Thank you, council, for your support in getting that done. Again, this is 8.7, right? There's the next item, is discuss and consider TDA CDBG 21-0329 Poultry Road and State Highway 34. Water main extensions is going to be handled by Jeremy Mungan.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I bring to you again the Poultry and State Highway 34 water main extension. It's a two-phase project. The first phase consists of the installation of a new water main to pretty much replace an outdated and severely undersized water main that's existing. The second phase is to actually alleviate a bottleneck point off of State Highway 34. As you can see in your packet, it's displayed. We also consulted with Hayter Engineering, in which we received a scope and fee for $149,915 to not exceed. We have done our due diligence to make sure that any in-house services that could be rectified or done to guarantee not exceeding this $149,000.
And this is in the form of a resolution. That resolution number is 2067. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Jeremy? This was presented last week, by the way. So
yes.
He did a good job. Okay.
Quick question on timeline. What is the anticipated project start and then timeline?
Right now, we're going through the preliminary design phase. So shortly after, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
A question regarding sort of the genesis of this project. How was it identified that this may need to be replaced initially? What was how was that discovered?
Well, I believe there were repairs done within the section, and of course, during that phase, it was probably discovered that that system was aged.
Let me kind of help him out there a little bit. Go over to the drawing, Don, that has the picture right there. Back up, we'll just take 34, kind of give you a little quick history lesson, Phil. If you'll see, at the top, where the interstate, where the cyan blue is going across, that's I believe a 16-inch line coming across there, across the interstate. But then it goes around the truck stop, as you see, like a horseshoe, and that's an 8-inch line and bottlenecks. And then as it comes down and ties into Tanger intersection, it jumps back to 12-inch, 10-inch, excuse me. So we got a bottleneck right there. So any growth, and we've had talks with discussion, that field to the south, so of some developments, but we have a bottleneck of pressure in there. So all the water out to the Tanger outlet, any future development out there is going to be limited. So that's the reason for that. If you go to the next slide. There you go. If you'll see the sign, dotted line is going parallel and just on the other side at the south of the road, going out Poetry Road towards the high school. That's an 8-inch line. It's been there longer than you and I have probably been alive, okay? So it's an 8-inch line, and this line is gonna be added to the other side. So we're gonna abandon that eventually as services break, but that's the intent behind that. And it's tied right into the Poetry tank.
Gotcha. Thanks for clarifying, Chris. Appreciate it.
Anyone else? Any question? Again, council, this is adoption or passage of Resolution 2067 as presented. I think it's in the resolution, I believe so. So if we pass resolution
No, the resolution.
2067,
It's already been approved, the resolution. has.
so we are
So we're just basically accepting the,
contract.
the contract.
Okay,
and an
then
amount
that
not
would
to
be,
exceed.
yeah, that would be a not to exceed number of $149,915 with, what company are we talking about? Hayter Engineering's. Hayter.
This is ordinance 2016.
No, no,
No,
no.
all we're doing here, Councilman, is we're accepting, the contract with Hager Engineering in an amount not to exceed
$915. $915. All right, is there a motion?
Yes, Mayor, motion to approve the contract with Hager Engineering not to exceed the amount of $149,915.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion from Grady Simpson, District 2, a second from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, to accept the contract with Hayter in an amount not to exceed $149,915. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimous vote of those present. Our next item on the agenda is 9.1, discuss agreement of plans, specifications, and estimates for Los Lomas and US 80. We're going to pass on this.
Yeah, Mayor, I talked to Chris Knapp today, and the consulting engineer can also be available on Thursday. We thought better to invite our guest out on Thursday, because this really connects really well with some of your budget discussions on Thursday. So we'll just combine it with your budget retreat and have that same presentation on Thursday.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All consent items are considered to be routine and may be entered by one motion and one vote. Is there anybody who would like to pull one of the three off? Hearing none, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Mayor Ronnie Velazquez, Mayor Pro Tem District 3, a second from Phil Robinson, District 5, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with unanimous vote of those present. All in, all done. We are adjourned.